we resist those things. So I hope that this will keep on recording. Something just flashed up on the screen. So by and large, I've said that this is what I've spoken about and talked about on Galway Bay FM. I've spoken about my own the integration of different cultures into my own family. My own great grandfather was a tinsmith, and by all accounts, seems to be a Romany gypsy that originating in India, however long ago, in the 15th century. And in our family, we have integrated that very interesting culture into our own family. And so I understand what prejudice is about, and I understand the struggles of how integration happens, and I don't underestimate it, and but it's part of my family, as by all accounts, and I'm really just trying to show people that it's a reality for me to have integration, cultural integration in my own background, and it's not a hostility or anything like that. It's just that these things have to be achieved fairly and respectfully in order for people to have peace. So let me think. I've pretty much the file size itself is maybe getting a bit too big. So maybe this is a time to stop talking. I've been going on for a long time. Let me think. Is there much else I can say about this? There probably isn't. And at this stage, jeepers, I've landed most of my ideas about immigration and the Irish nation. So, jeepers, look, we've let that one off, and in the end, let me go back to Patrick. And in the end, he may have been a Briton and not a Gael, but he served an Irish vision, and that's what it's all about. It's about imperialism versus the local vision, And remember, we're one of the oldest cultures in Europe. We have endured we're a remnant of a culture which stretched all the way from Ireland to Turkey, the Celtic culture. We speak the Celtic language still, and we are the last independent part of that once great culture, which was a European culture, which was a transnational culture in itself. So, it's important that that is preserved. It's important that we don't lose our identity. And I know that many newcomers respect that completely. And that's what we want to continue to happen. But remember, Coveney said he wanted, or Varadkar and Flanagan wanted 1 million new migrants into Ireland. We already have 20%. That would have taken us up to 40%. And with the pressure that's on Irish families and our cultural and moral opposition to families forming, in other words, that our cultural climate doesn't make it easy for Irish people and our financial climate doesn't make it easy for Irish people to form families and pay for a house, that this is creating the conditions for a serious ethnic change to Ireland. And over in the UK now, 40% of all births in the UK are to non-nationals. So, that is a very serious change in population. And that's going to affect our culture. We haven't had anything like that happen for a very long time. Like I said, at the last time we lost our sovereignty at the flight of the Earls, Immediately after we lost our sovereignty, we saw economic restructuring and population manipulation. So we saw 400 years ago, we saw plantation in the north and in Leinster and in Munster, and that sowed the seeds of 400 years of conflict, added to the previous 400 years of conflict. And, it's only recently that we have accepted people who are genetically identical to us as Irish. For a long time, Protestants weren't accepted. And, we have just, after 400 years, resolved that what would seem a very narrow difference with massive conflict. Biting off a huge influx of people and expecting it all just to resolve itself without any planning or anybody being able to talk about it or anybody coming up with a plan as how we resolve all this is quite frankly madness, also quite potentially disruptive. And I know that a lot of the guys who would be, say there was a West Indian guy, he didn't like it when people, well, he said to me, I don't like it when people present the conflict in dangerous terms. And I can understand that. And I'm not trying to say that if we carry on, we're going to have conflict. I'm just saying that why risk it? Why pour fuel on the fire? Let's just manage with 20%, see how we get on, and set a limit at 20%. And if we can manage that, which will probably take at least 100 years, probably 2, 3, 4 generations, let's have a look at it again. But at the moment, we need to really challenge where this is all coming from, which is the EU and UN. So all this is coming to us over the heads of our national government from the UN Migration Pact, and our government is not able to say anything about it because they're in debt to the EU and have no say over their own policies because, the bankers will pull the plug. So we're in a dangerous position. We're in a position of powerlessness, and that's not good for people. And we are seeing